Al and Brian, Paul, again, thank you so much for being here tonight and talking about everything we're talking about.
Hey, Pat, Pat, I just wanted to tell you that music was really cool.
Oh, you like that, huh? That's that's Henry Mancini's Experiment in Terror.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
As a kid growing up in Chicago, there used to be on WGN television on Saturday nights. There used to be a program called Creature Features.
Yeah.
And I used to watch that. I mean, growing up as a kid and a teen and a young adult, and the voiceover on that is a guy by the name of Marty McNeely. He worked for WGN for 50 years. He's passed away about 2 years ago. But we've used that theme song for about 8 years now. It kind of sums it all up for us.
Very cool. I almost thought it was the Cramps for a minute.
No, it's Henry Mancini's Experiment in Terror. There was a movie called Experiment in Terror.
Pat, I remember Creature Feature. We had it here in New York, too.
Did you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pat, did you ever hear of John Zackerly?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's a friend of mine.
Really?
Yeah. He's a really nice guy. He's about 92.
Yeah, there's we of course we started the show doing paranormal stuff. My wife actually started this show doing paranormal stuff and ufology, and I am just a huge fan of old B movies. I love the old stuff, and I've done a lot of shows, and I've had a lot of horror hosts on in the I believe it's the Pittsburgh or Cleveland area. Just a couple weeks ago, we had Janet Decay and Grim Gory on. They are doing an internet thing. And then, of course, in the D.C. area, you've got Count Gordeval, who's Dick Deisel. And, and of course, the only one that's still kind of syndicated is Rich Cause out of Chicago, who is the son of Svengoolie. So that whole horror genre I find interesting, and I've brought so many different people on, and it kind of takes us back to when we were young.
Who's the woman out in California? What's her name?
Elvira?
Yes, Elvira.
Yeah, she's being syndicated too again. She's putting her show back together, and there's a big push for Mystery Science Theater 3000 to go back on the air as well.
Huh. Also, I think Twin Peaks is coming back.
Yes.
Yeah, David Lynch-esque. I mean, I think he was one that really helped bring some of these old guys, the classics back out, like when they got interested in Twin Peaks. Then they dig a little bit deeper. They know all the other guys, the players around, in the field.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like I said, I love that old stuff, and I mean, growing up as a kid on kids of today, man, they just I don't know. The world has changed. It's all about Facebook and Twitter and texting on your phone and running into walls and stuff. When I was a kid, on Saturday afternoons, we used to watch horror movies on the UHF channels and
yes. But I think today's horror movies are so much more horrible.
Oh, they are.
They're just really disgusting.
They are. Yeah, I mean, back then, I was, matter of fact, on Halloween, I was watching the original Frankenstein movie. And, while it was scary, Frankenstein, when he grabbed somebody, he put his hands around their neck and they walked through the curtain and that was it. And, you used your imagination. Nowadays, people want to see the guts torn out and see what the people had for lunch. It's nothing but gore.
Unbelievable.
Yes.
It is.
There's no shock value anymore. I mean, usually none of that. It's no imagination either.
Yeah, I mean, to me, when the Thing has been released a couple of times. When I saw the original one when I was young, it scared the heck out of me. And then the John Carpenter version with Kurt Russell, to me, that was scarier than heck when I was a kid.
Yeah,
that's nothing now. I mean, there's not, that's G stuff for young kids compared to what's out.
Yeah, I just saw this movie the other day called The Devil's Disciples. You ever see that? Oh my God.
No.
Oh, don't
scare the heck out of you, huh?
Just really horrible.
It was when they re-released The Exorcist with extra footage. I remember going to see it because I wasn't allowed to go.
Right.
When they put it out there, and what was really great about it was not just seeing the movie in a movie theater, but seeing the reaction of some of the younger people when, like, Linda Blair's doing a crab walk with her head turned around backwards.
Right,
I mean, they bugged out, and that movie. And those guys that grew up on the B-rolls, like the Creature of Black Lagoon and that type of stuff, they kids today don't realize that because of The Exorcist, when they started playing around with the music at that level of decibels where it just gets to your skin, that's why the theme song was so powerful.
Right.
And that's why a lot of the, everybody takes it for granted now, and no one uses their imagination. And I have a problem right now with my kids. They have to write things, or they just don't use their imagination. They just want a quick fix.
Right. Well, yeah, it's the instant gratification. I think that's what's gotten this country in so much trouble. I mean, we used to save for stuff. Now there's no saving or putting it away or anything. Now we run out and grab it, and the kids, unfortunately, are. They don't. It's sad, and I'm not saying that's everybody, but the work ethic is kind of gone across the board. It's that the give it to me now type of thing versus working for it or working hard for something, no matter what it may be.
Yeah.
It's crazy, but well, yeah, and the music is interesting too. Like one of the scariest movies that I ever saw, and it still scares me to this day, was the original Alien.
Yeah.
There was, if you think about it, when things happened, there was no music to build up. It just happened, A lot of stuff, the music builds and you kind of get ready for it. But with that movie, it just, things popped out and scared the living heck out of you. Why don't we talk, if it's okay, you've done some investigations. I'd like to ask you guys a couple of things. First of all, if we could talk a little bit about the equipment you use, and then maybe some of these investigations, especially at the Lynchworth Village Insane Asylum and some of the other things.
No,
go ahead, Al. Go ahead, Fry, you go.
Okay, well, everybody brings a little bit of their own expertise and flavor of equipment. Paul has a camera on him 24/7, and he has this ability to capture things that I never really captured, although I did one in the last investigation, and you could probably hear me on tape of that, just saying Paul's going to be really upset. I didn't use those terms, but but on a technical side, I'm willing to try new things and new applications. We use an app called Ghost Radar. There's a lot of talk on the internet about this application. I kind of like it. It's very simple. It uses an algorithm internally. It sends out signals, and it detects fluctuations, again, in energy that may hit the algorithm or block it or stop it. And sometimes that will actually trigger something from the definition word list of about 200 or 300 different words. So we've used that. Their claim to fame is that it detects ghosts. That's or anomalies in the area, entities, because entities are supposed to be spirits and energy-based. I find that using it, it's not a spirit board, but we use it to get a kind of general reading in the area. So that's an app on the iPhone. Another app that we use, or a piece of equipment, we use infrared. We don't have the money to really go out there and buy some FLIR, heavy-duty FLIRs that you'll see on all those shows, but we do have ones that connect to the phone, and they do give you the same readings and the same output, and we've just started using that a lot more to see if there's anything else there with us or hotspots. If we come into a situation, for example, at Letchworth, we didn't have it, but if we did, it would have been nice to have, because we could have scanned the entire area in certain spots that we were in and see if there was something present. We do use voice recorders for EVPs, electronic voice phenomenon. We use video, night vision, and then it's just sometimes you can go old school with dowsing rods.
Right.
But I'm actually in the process of creating and building a couple of little units. We'll take fluctuations between the positive charges in the air and negative, and we'll dim when it comes across something that's positive or negative in the area. So alert you that there could be a potential spirit entity there, based on the hypothesis that even though you pass away, your spirit and energy is still there, and you can actually manipulate other energy areas.
Interesting.
That's what I'm bringing with us to the investigations. I think Al usually you have compasses, heat thermometers. And,
I like to go old school, ed school.
You know what I mean? I'll bring the digital thermometer. I'll do that. I'll use the EMF meter. I got the night fishing goggles. I also use, like Brian says, I'll use the compass. I'll use dowsing rods. I'll do the old flashlight things. You know, try to get some kind of intelligent response with a flashlight. Again, EVPs with the digital voice recorders. I like to bring a couple cameras with me. I have a 35 millimeter. I have a digital, and I also have the old Polaroid too. So, you know, I like to mix things up. I like to, you know, just try to keep everything on the up. And I don't want to rely too much on technology. You know, I like to go both ways.
Definitely.
Well, and you can never really have enough tools in your toolbox, but probably the best tool is just your instincts and your expertise and all the history that you have of research in these places.
Your gut plays a big part. That's your sixth sense, in my opinion. And you know, you'll get to a place, and if you start believing the hype and the hyperbole and the folklore, you can really get yourself jacked up to the point where you're just anything's gonna set you off. Before we go in, I personally like to just relax a little bit. Try to get into a medium area where I'm not too excited and not too, withdrawn from it. Because I want to go in there even and then see what happens. I don't want I throw all that stuff out about what you hear on reports, or if Ghost Adventure guys did a show on Letchworth Village and they're claiming X, Y, and Z. I don't pay attention to that. I got to go in on my own. Otherwise, you're tarnished. You know, you have too much junk coming in that could affect what you're going to experience or not experience there.
And also, don't forget, Al started with a prayer and an om.
Yeah, I always like to do a white prayer before we go in, and sage not only ourselves but our equipment as well. And then when we finish the investigation, I like to finish up again with a white prayer and some more sage, because nobody on the team wants to bring anything home with us.
Have you ever,
Al, I'm so glad you picked Letchworth Village, because, you know, I had never even heard of that place before that. And it's a really incredible grounds there. If anyone can get to it, it's really amazing. It's beautiful.
what's the history on the place, guys?
I guess it was for children, right? Wasn't it
I think it started off as an orphanage place to put the kids way back when, that now would be classified as special needs, or somebody, and the wealthy would take probably their illegitimate children and put them there and not have to worry about them, because they weren't getting out. That was a place you went to. If you were sent there as a child, you weren't going to get out. Your parents were going to pick you up. They may have released you, but then I think it went into a hospital, and then it started taking people with mental illness, and the polio vaccination that is it tuberculosis or polio? One of them was created at that hospital. It was actually being tested on the children without permission from any of the parents. And if you know anything about how some of the scientists do their research in that type of situation, is give it to them. If they live, they live. If they don't, we know it doesn't work.
Right.
Sounds like the Nazis.
Yeah, well, it's a sad place. I mean, it's a huge ground. I think it's 24,000 acres.
There's like 30 buildings, right?
No, more than that.
More.
Bunch. Yeah, I think at one point they had before they knocked a few down and sold a few. I think at one point the village itself was a total of 109 buildings, I think.
Wow.
Yeah.
And there's also a cemetery there, right?
There's a cemetery there that has a lot. I think all of them are unmarked graves, and only recently did they start to they put a plaque up of the names of the people that were buried there. Most of them children, and I think a few of the workers that may have had incidences that passed away while at Letchworth Village.
Well, it's kind of. I'm looking at some pictures of it. Some of the photos of it, it almost looks like Auschwitz.
Yeah, It's funny. One of the there's another investigation team that went in there, and on the grounds in a little weird way. Not that it's Auschwitz, but there is an abandoned synagogue there, which is I was told by a couple of friends that live in the area, you got to get to it. You got to get to it. And we never got to it at the time. We kind of started off at the main dance floor, which is the hospital. That's where a lot of the craziness takes place, apparently. But we're definitely going back up if Al will attest to that.
Oh yeah, we're
definitely
going
some areas.
back. Yeah, we never made it to the cemetery that night, and when we got to the location, the security guard told us a great story that happened to her. She was patrolling down at the cemetery, and for some reason she decided to pull out her phone to take a picture of grounds. Like Brian said before, there's no tombstones. It's just crosses with numbers on them. And she took the photograph, and in the photograph were 3 light beams in the middle of the field. And she said she'll never go back there and patrol again.
Really?
But,
and also, the first thing I did when I got out of the car is I took a couple of pictures, and this is during the day, and I got these big mists in the picture, which was really strange.
They're actually up on the Bronxville Paranormal website. If you look under Paul Greco's photos, you'll see the before and after.
Right.
You'll see a couple of guys on the team. He took a picture, and then the next picture, I just couldn't believe what was just. There was a mist forming right in the background. It was incredible. It was just like something. I know we're into this field, and you'd love to see this, and you'd like to expect it, but you're not really expecting to see these things.
Right.
And I didn't even notice that until I got home. You know what I mean?
But
where is the insane asylum at? Is it in upstate New York? Where is it actually at?
It's over the
Rockland
Tappan
County.
Bridge, Rockland.
Rockland County, New York. It's
Rockland
not
County.
that far.
it's near.
It wasn't far
believe,
from us.
Yeah, like near Tompkins Cove. There's a. It's off of one. I forgot the actual parkway that goes through there, but it's maybe the Garden State or the Palisades, and you would never know you were there. That's the strange part about where this thing is located. You just drive on roads, and all of a sudden you come up and you're like, oh, there's a lot of abandoned buildings here.
Right.
And that's part of the 24,000 acres of land that amasses this, this huge institution that for years was being used by people as a dumping ground.
So is the building closed, or do they do tours or?
There's no trespassing, and we trespassed.
Now, you're not allowed to go. You're allowed to be on the grounds during daylight hours, but you're not allowed to go into the buildings. But all of the buildings, even though they were boarded up, have all been broken into at some point in time. So
Right.
it's easy access. You could just walk in and out. It's not like
It's
find
not
a
like
hole.
you're breaking and entering, to get into a place. There's an open door. The kids are typical teenage kids. I guess if I lived in the area too, and I was a teenager, I'm sure I'd be up there hanging out with friends, playing tag or ghost stories or whatever. So you can kind of walk in. Just be warned though, you are trespassing, and I think one of Paul's friends, who's a photographer, just was recently arrested or something to that effect.
Yeah, she got caught inside.
Do
you have to get permission from the state, or how did you guys?
We just snuck in.
Oh, okay.
This one was it was proposed. It was decent weather. Normally, what we try to do is there's a couple other people on the team. We'll try to get permission to get into some place. We're not a group that breaks and enters, and
right.
That's not our modus operandi. We want the permission. We want the approval, the blessing of the people there. But I can countless times. I've been in places where I've walked through the woods. You see an old house, a foundation there, and you walk in. Technically, you're breaking and entering.
Right.
But we're walking through the woods. There's so much woods there, and then you come across a building, and the pathway leads. It's an open door. I'm in a building. I didn't break the door to get down to it. It's just open.
Right.
So
the reason you're not allowed in there basically is because it's very dangerous.
Well, it looks looking at the pictures, it looks pretty run down, like you could get yourself hurt real quick.
Yeah,
Very
you could get
easily.
yourself hurt very easily.
They're open elevator shafts.
Oh, really?
Yep. There's nails coming out of the floor with boards. There's pieces of
Even-
metal hanging down. You could easily bang
And
your
even
head
during
on
the
them.
day, it's dark in there. Even during
Pitch
the
black.
day. Some of the photographs you'll see, the sun is out. It's a beautiful day outside, but inside the building it's pretty dark.
Maybe Jimmy Hoff is down one of them elevator shafts.
No, I think he's up in elsewhere.
Yeah.
I don't think they would have wasted the time or the gas to get him up there. But it's one of the places that we had a significant amount of activity. We kind of, when we went in, people kind of spread out and they broke off into their own little groups to do their own investigations, and we kind of regrouped downstairs in a room that ends. It's almost like an operating room, and if you could picture it, see, being a New Yorker, I actually like to survey where I am. I want to know where the front entrance is, the back entrance, where the ins and outs are, especially in that kind of situation.
Right.
This room had one way in and one way out, and you walk right into this big open room that looked like an operating room.
I believe, Brian, I believe the room was actually a laboratory.
Well, yeah,
I know we referred to it as the operating room, but I believe
I do believe it's a lab, and they probably, because it's within feet of where the cold freezers are, where the bodies probably would lay. I'm sure they've done a lot of autopsies there. Rumor had it at this place they had a collection of human brains
Really?
in jars. Yes, I guess for study purposes. So when I walked into this room with the rest of the guys that were there, and we were kind of surveying it, I surveyed. It's a big open room. There's a wood table in this kind of towards the center with an old abandoned, an old school TV set there when they had tubes before LEDs, kids. And if you go past that, it was a little hallway to a back room where it was just sinks. No windows, everything was sealed up. So the only way in and out of that room was through the door, and we were in that main room. We would see something. And one of the things I did, we were told by our psychic Cindy that we were going to get, there's a doctor there that wasn't a nice guy, and he was doing experiments. So I said, you know what, let's kind of do a little play thing here. I try to play on using Paul as the guinea pig. I think he needs to be cut up or something to that effect. And I don't think the doctor actually liked it because a big conduit just went nuts. It just started swaying.
Wow.
In the room.
Brian, weren't we in a dentist's office also?
Yeah, we were at the dentist's office a little bit back away from that area there. But one of the interesting things, I'll get to the dentist's office in 1 second, or Al, or you can. After the conduit was moving, we, of course, were investigating, like, why is it moving? No one hit it. No one swung into it. And then we're kind of like, I'm standing next to Al, and I would be facing maybe a couple of feet away from that table. And it caught my eye, and I said, Al, look. And on the table next to the TV set was a Ouija board.
Really?
Yes, but here's the catch. Ready, Pat? Here's the catch. That Ouija board was not there when we entered that room.
Wow. It appeared there, it appeared.
It was yes,
Pat.
Pat,
let me explain exactly what happened. When we rendezvoused in the hallway, called our psychic Cindy. She had mentioned something to the effect that when we go into the operating room, we were going to find a board game, and it started with the letter O. So we all joked at her expense that it was going to be Operation. When we went into this operating room, there were 6 of us. We looked for a board game. There was no board game to be found, none whatsoever. There was only one table, and we were all standing around it. When that conduit started shaking, everybody's attention was drawn to that conduit. Brian went over with a black light to see if there was any fingerprints on it at all. And when we all looked back, that Ouija board was on that table. And it just blew everybody's mind.
To the point where I was like, did you put that there? I'm like, yeah, I carry Ouija boards. I don't touch them and I don't play with them. I don't like them personally. I just think they're really bad news. So it wasn't me. And none of the other guys put it there. I mean, they didn't have.
None of us would ever do that.
No,
We're not trying to trick anybody.
Right.
We're not trying to fool. We're not kidding around. We're not making jokes. We're serious.
And it was just bizarre. And of course, one of our investigators, a little more playing around. He's playing with it and touching it, and I'm like, listen, something just appears there. That doesn't mean to go grab it or play around with it. But if you look at some of the photos that were taken on our site, specifically, I think some of the Al's photos as well. There's a photo of Paul taking a picture of us, and then someone's taking a picture of Paul, where Paul is.
I was taking a picture of Paul.
Okay, and when I first saw that photo, I was like, it's just nothing really there. I didn't really notice it. And then Al said, look up in the upper left corner. And so I'm running it through some software, lighting up, playing with gammas and exposures, and you'll see the photo there. There's an entity or something, and you can see the eyes, and it's hovering right above Paul's head. So, right over, if I'm staring at Paul, over his left shoulder, which is his right shoulder, and it blew my mind. That wasn't there. Well, we didn't see it there. We would have noticed something like that.
Brian,
Yeah, we were looking for a board game. There was no way that thing was there when we first walked in that room. No way.
What's your for our listeners? What's your website address? What's the website address?
Bronxville Paranormal Society.com.
Okay.
And there's also the UFO Roundtable on Meetup.
Yes.
We also have
and
Bronxville
Facebook.
Paranormal, a BBS page on Facebook as well.
And
UFO Roundtable on Facebook, which Brian started.
Gotcha.
And that's actually getting more people than the Meetup.
The best part about Facebook is it opens it up to people that aren't in your area, that are very interested in the subject, or they're curious. So you start getting some people there, then dialogue takes place, and hopefully if you come out east, you're more than welcome to come to the meeting, right? Paul, it's the first Wednesday of every month at the Will Library in Yonkers. And also, hopefully we get to, do some more investigations and maybe move a little bit more towards your neck of the woods, Pat.
Oh, well, there's plenty of stuff out here to do. Like I said, you could camp out at, we're definitely in a hot spot for everything. You've got Skinwalker Ranch. You've got, the north end of Area 51 or 52, whatever they call it down south. And then on the other side, 2 valleys over, which is about an hour drive away, you've got Dugway.
Wow.
Which I've never seen runways that big. They make the Area 51 runways look small.
Wow.
Yeah,
Is that Skinwalker Ranch available to go to? I mean, is it open?
It really isn't. No, it's kind of interesting that you bring that up. Bigelow from Bigelow Aerospace bought the whole.
Bob Bigelow.
Right,
Yeah.
Bob bought all the property out, and you used to be able to go to the gate. Now they've moved the gate back, and they actually, which really is kind of a gray area, no pun intended. They've hired in private. They've actually hired in private security details, and some of these people, which I think really borders on illegalness. There's public roads down there, public land, and I've actually had people send pictures and call in and talk about how they went down near that area, went up one of these back roads to kind of get near the ranch, and basically had guys come out with with assault rifles, all dressed in black, asking them questions and pretty much scaring people away.
What are they hiding?
Don't know. There's another area down there. Somebody said they call it G2. And they say a lot of weird things happen there. But in that Uinta Basin, even if you can't go right to Skinwalker, you can get around the area. And there's just a lot of strange things that happen down there. I've gotten many photos sent to me, and many people that have called me. It's just a lot of craziness.
Pat, did Bigelow write a report on this thing?
I don't believe so. No, I know that there was and I can't really talk to this, but I know that Bigelow did have some sort of tie with MUFON, and my understanding is that, and again, people, if I'm wrong, this is just kind of what I had heard. Bigelow had, in some way, shape, or form, was able to obtain a lot of the MUFON reports as far as sightings and stuff like that.
Yeah, I heard that too. I think that's true.
Right, and there's nothing really there's really nothing wrong with that, because my understanding is that's pretty much public knowledge. But he picked a lot of that up, and he bought that site down there, and the guy from from KTLA, not KTLA, but the reporter out of Las Vegas has been there a few times. We've had a gentleman by the name of Ryan Burns on the program. Ryan actually lives very near the ranch and dedicates most of his life to studying what's going down there. And
Wow.
again, my wife has family that was from down there, and years ago when she was a little girl, she talks about how, the parents, how mom and dad and how grandpa and grandma would talk about seeing all these crazy things flying around in the air at night. So there's been a lot of activity down there forever, but my understanding is it also is now spread quite a bit, and I don't know if Bigelow is purchasing it or other people are.
Is James Gilliland in Utah too?
What was the name now?
James Gilliland?
I believe he's from Washington State.
Washington, yes.
Right.
Yeah, there's another place, I think, in Washington State that's similar to the Skinwalker Ranch. They have a lot of anomalies, a lot of strange things in the woods, noises, creatures, but that's actually accessible. I think you can actually rent out and spend the week there if you would like.
Right.
And experience it. But from what I understand and I don't know, I'm not totally versed on this, so I hope the UFO people don't crucify me. But Skinwalker is supposed to be a very intense area. Some things are supposedly taking place. There were fights and wars and, enough between military and creatures not from this earth. So, unless you're there and you get it from someone who was there, it makes great story and great press, but until you get there, we don't know what's going on. It just could be a cover story for something else.
Well, it could, and again, that area is very has a lot of Native American history to it. Again, people have I've heard all kinds of stories as far as a string of light will appear in the middle of nowhere. It'll basically be like a portal, like a thin. Couple people that have experienced it firsthand says it looks like somebody just lights up a fluorescent bulb that's maybe 10 feet high, and this beam opens up, and someone comes. These portals open and things come out.
I heard the same thing.
I mean, that's the interesting part, because there are places like this again. There could be some of these stone chambers there that we're not even aware of, or some rock formations. But yeah, there's always been talk about certain areas of the globe have it's like a window or a doorway to wherever. So he just may now own it, and I don't know what he's going to do with it, but it'd be pretty interesting to be there for a little bit and find it and see it, with your own eyes.
Well, one thing we've tried to do is we're trying to coordinate with a couple people here in Salt Lake City. We got it's been a year now, but we've got 6 months, I should say. We got a new state director for MUFON, a gal by the name of Erica Lukes, who is very dedicated to making sure things are reported, things that are seen. And Erica and a few of us have been talking. Maybe next year we're going to try to coordinate an effort. I'd love to do the program out there as long as we've got high-speed Wi-Fi somewhere and we can crawl onto a network. We could do the show because we could remote into the studio here in Salt Lake. Right. And again, everybody
That's a great idea.
Yeah, and it would be cool to do a video feed too. But everybody that I've talked to who has gone down there, if they're patient, you will see something. And there's so many photos of things that are just plain as day flying in the middle of the daytime. You don't have to go out there at night. You can see it in the day. And orbs that fly over the ground, 5-6 feet over the ground at tremendous amounts of speed. There's something there. What it is, I don't know, but there is something.
Right. And there's Indian legends too, right?
Yeah.
It'd be great. That's the dream, is actually getting a Wi-Fi signal in places like that. because that's the key. If you can get Wi-Fi to be there, there's so much more you can do with it, especially remoting into the studio. I tried broadcasting when we were in Nuclear Lake, and I was doing something through Periscope .tv, but you need some more equipment and a better signal than to rely on something like that. So whatever you do, just bring a car that has the Wi-Fi in it, or the MiFi, or anything like that.
anything that we can, get at least a good quality signal back. But yeah, there's just a lot of strangeness down there. A lot of strange things happen. And again, Dugway is not too far away from us. There's a lot of people that have said, Area 51 is nothing in comparison to what Dugway is and what happens up there. But so many places out here, you think about it, civilization, it's kind of interesting, but it's just like even big cities. Like I said, I come from Chicago. You go down to the southern suburbs, while they have grown, it doesn't take too much time to get into farmlands, and New York State is just like that too. You go up north not that far, and you're in the middle of nowhere.
100%. Once you get out of Manhattan, you can get lost.
Yeah.
And you can get lost in different areas, and it's pretty interesting. Coming from a big city, you go to a smaller place. It can be unnerving for those that aren't used to it or aware of the fact that that's how close you are to the outdoors.
Right. Well, and here again, same thing here. We've got a lot of ghost town out here and ghost towns, and you get out of Salt Lake County, Utah County. I mean, it just you head 60 miles south of here, and you're in the middle of nowhere, and it's nowhere until you get down to Mesquite or St. George, and then same till you get to Las Vegas. It's just open miles of range, and again, who knows what's out in the middle of those mountain ranges that you can't even see or get to. It's weird. Every now and then you take I-15 down to Vegas, and you look over and you go, man, what's that? Well, there's a road in the middle of nowhere. It's like, where does that road go to? Where, what's on the other side of that hill, and why does it have a 10-foot gate in front of it?
Yeah, that's the perplexing part of the whole thing. Remember driving from Tucson to Phoenix, and it's just, you're driving, there's nothing, and all of a sudden there's something there, and you're like, who the heck wants to live out here? You're nowhere. You're in a way off the grid, and it's just very bizarre to, like, you come out, like, why is there a 10-foot gate out there? Or strange stuff.
Right. Exactly. Have you guys ever been up to Montauk at all?
Oh God, yeah. We haven't been out there as a team, not yet. But I mean, I spent all my summers growing up as a kid out in Montauk. My father loved Montauk. As a matter of fact, my father, who was a non-believer in anything paranormal, had a ghost actually seen an apparition out there fishing one time.
So now, is that I'm not really familiar? Is that an abandoned military base?
Yeah, Camp Hero.
Yeah, there's actually two military bases out there. Camp Hero, where they did the Montauk Project, and then there was another one, which was a Navy base in one of the outlets, and that's where my father had his ghostly encounter, and. Even after he's seen it, he was with his best friend. He still would admit that it was a ghost, but his best friend couldn't even talk about the experience. It's so scary.
So what didn't they do different experiments up there? I mean, I've never really had a Montauk expert on the show, but what's kind of the gist of it, of what happened?
I had Peter Moon once at our meeting. He's like the big expert on the Montauk Project. And I guess it's connected up with the Philadelphia experiment. But I had a friend who actually went there a couple of years ago, and he hopped the fence, and he went inside, and he said there were still all these electrical things that were working. So he was thinking that there's still something going on there.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Underground.
Yeah, I've had Peter on the show once or twice. He's a pretty intense person.
He is incredible.
I kind of caught him on a bad night, actually. I asked him to do the program a few years ago on a Saturday night, and he was a little reluctant, but he said okay. But he had actually done radio interviews. He was doing radio. He did 4 2-hour shows in a row, and mine was the last. So by the time I got him, I could tell he was a little bit stressed out.
Wow.
But no, he's definitely a good guy.
When you get out to Montauk, you have a lot of, besides the military there, but a lot of the CDC bases are out there, or were. So you have a lot of things, really nasty germs and viruses that they're playing around with, and genetic projects as well.
Yeah.
Interesting. It's amazing when you think about it. And a question that one of our listeners sent in for you, when you were at the insane asylum, could you guys feel that sadness, that darkness, that anger in there?
I think so. I think I felt something kind of negative.
I didn't feel anything dark or negative. I know our psychic was overwhelmed by all the emotion of the place, and she actually needed like 3 days afterwards to get her composure back. She was so overwhelmed by it. But as far as anything dark, no. Sadness, absolutely. I think we all felt that.
Well, yeah, especially when people are experimenting on other people, especially children.
Well, you have that running in the back of your head, and it's like, and then I have kids and I have young children, and it's just like, how can you do that as a parent? I mean, there's times when your kids can drive you nuts. You're like, yeah, I can send them there, but it's only a joke. You know, how can you send someone there? It's your own flesh and blood. I understand it, and I'm not talking about people that had special needs that, like, listen, I can't take care of this, and especially way back when. I'm talking about children that, pardon the term, bastard children. You're just like, oh, just send them there. I mean, that's pretty sick. It is sad on that aspect, but when we were there, there was no strange feelings whatsoever. Didn't feel like there was any pressure in the air, or didn't get the goosebumps, or except for one moment. We were downstairs by that elevator shaft, and as quick as it came is as quick as it went, but I kind of got, used the term, the willies, and it lasted for maybe a second, and that was it.
Wow.
After something passed by me. But other than that, nothing.
I felt the same thing for exactly the same amount of time. But we were down there at different times. I mean, we were all in the same location, but everybody took different floors, so we would switch floors. So when Brian had his experience down there, I was up on the second floor. I didn't know. Then when I went down there, I had that same experience. Actually, I got turned around down in the basement at one point so bad I couldn't find my way out. And
we almost got lost in there.
I was ready to kick one of the windows out just to get out, and I had to call the guys on the walkie-talkie. They came down the steps with flashlights so I could find my way out because I got turned around. It's like a maze. The place is huge.
It's like a maze, and everything looks the same.
You go in one place, you go the other.
Yeah.
Everything down there looks the same because everything is decrepit and broken,
and they had tiny little rooms. Remember those little tiny rooms they had? It was crazy.
There's papers all over the floor, file cabinets over, desks turned over, chairs. It's just like unbelievable.
The one thing you kind of worry about, like Paul mentioned before, it is dangerous. I mean, you're going into a place that had a lot of disease at one point. Right. And I'm not a doctor. I don't know the shelf life on tuberculosis or polio or whatever. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. But
and that's why Brian brought us masks.
Yeah, I brought masks with us. What was unnerving, being a dad, we were up towards the end of our investigation. We were at a different area of the hospital, and we encountered a group of teenagers.
In there at the same time.
Yeah, 5 guys, 1 girl, and we asked, did you say any prayers before coming in? No. Did you protect yourself before coming? No. Did you tell anybody you were there? No. I'm like, I get it. I was a teenager too, and we've done some crazy things. But this is an open building. It's inviting to anybody, good or evil, with intention. And you're going to go in there by yourself without protection. A little bit too much for me.
I'll tell them the punchline. Al, you tell the punchline.
Okay. We met these a really good EVP of an old woman asking who invited you in here, which was pretty cool. But at one point, we're all standing there with these surgical masks on, and you couldn't see our face.
Right.
And there was 6 of us. We're adults, we're big guys, and you got all these kids. And when we say teenagers, we mean young teenagers, like 12, 13, 14 years old. And Brian asked them, or I asked them, does anybody know you're in here? And they're like, no, we didn't. I go, did you tell anybody that you were coming here? And he go, no, we didn't tell anybody. And I said, good. And then I turned to Brian. I said, Brian, we could kill them and no one would even know they're here. And they turned white as a ghost. They were like, oh my God, these old people are going to kill us.
But I'm good for a joke every once in a while, but you can see the fear and horror in their faces. I'm like, I'll cut it out.
They were excited.
Bring it back.
They were excited when they seen Brian doing a live stream on Twitter. He had a live stream going, so they were excited about that.
Yeah, I want to document it and capture it any way I can. I'm not really big on the GoPros because, you need 50 of them. There's, you're walking around in a giant walking suit. But sometimes you get things, and you may not see it at the time, but someone in Twitter land that's watching the feed, they pick something up, so I'll check, and you can see on the screen, they can type to you while you're actually feeding it. So it works out pretty well, actually.
Interesting. Guys, the 2 hours went too quick. I want to thank you for
Wow.
I want to thank you for being here. And maybe after the first of the year, we could get you all back on again and talk some more, and hopefully between now and the not too distant future you'll have some more investigations. But it's been an honor to have all 3 of you here, and again, thank you for giving up your time to be on the airwaves in Utah with us.
Pat,
you're very welcome.
Us.
Thank you for having us,
Pat.
and hopefully you get a nice, happy Thanksgiving for you and the family.
We will. Same to you and your families. Again, God bless you all. Be safe wherever you go in there, and be careful because it's dangerous work in the scheme of things.
And Pat, you have a really good show here, and I think you're doing a good thing.
Well, thank you. We're 7 years, 7 years into it. It keeps us busy without a doubt.
And I think
you got a really good chat room too, Pat. They're really into it.
Well, thank you much.
Good.
I like how you were saying that you don't set up the interviews first. It makes it much more real and authentic.
It does. It's nothing scripted. It's just a lot of fun.
It's great.
All right,
It was a lot of fun. Thank you.
Well, thank you again. It was an honor to have you here. Take care and have a happy Thanksgiving and a great Christmas, and we'll stay in touch.
Same to you and all the listeners.
All right. Take care, guys. Good night.
Bye, everybody.
Good night.
All right. Bye-bye.
Ciao.
All right. Al and Brian and Paul from Bronxville Paranormal Society. Go to their website at bronxvilleparanormalsociety.com and check it out. It's a great site.